And now I'd like to welcome our witnesses to provide testimony on a resolution recommending that the House of Representatives find Mark Meadows in contempt of Congress for refusal to comply with a subpoena duly issued by the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. And I do, before I introduce, okay. Let me just make a few comments, and I'm happy to yield again to the ranking member if he has any additional comments. Basically, what we're talking about today is a measure that calls for the House to hold Mark Meadows, the President Trump's former chief of staff, in contempt of Congress for defying a duly issued subpoena, and to refer the matter to the U.S. Attorney. And I don't think anybody here takes that step lightly. Mr. Meadows once agreed to cooperate. He produced documents, but eventually changed course and refused to show up for a deposition. He even refused to answer questions as his book was being released, in which he publicly recounts private conversations he had with President Trump. I think he's fine with doing interviews on Fox News. I guess that's okay, apparently, but he feels that he can't testify before Congress. From the information he turned over to the committee before his stonewalling has made clear he has knowledge and information that is central to this investigation. He's already provided a PowerPoint that, to me, amounts to essentially a paper trail on how to undo the results of an election in the United States. A coup by PowerPoint. It talked about the president declaring a national security emergency and seizing ballots over complete nonsense. President Trump lost the election, period. And a retired U.S. Army colonel who helped circulate the document has come forward and said he visited the White House and spoke to Mr. Meadows 8 or 10 times. I mean, is anyone on the other side shocked by this? Are there people in the Republican conference who are curious about how this thing was drafted or what other information could be out there? I mean, this is stunning. Yet somehow Mr. Meadows thinks he shouldn't have to testify before Congress and answer questions. Give me a break. The texts sent to Mark Meadows that were released by the Select Committee last night were nothing short of a bombshell. The top personalities on Fox News, who are today trying to cover up the gravity of what happened on January 6th, knew who to go to stop the insurrection that day. The president's son knew who to go to. When Don Jr. texted that, quote, "It has gone too far and gotten out of hand," end quote, what was it that he was referring to? The it was the attempt to overthrow the election. The it was the attempted coup in the United States of America. Yet the president did nothing in those critical moments, in what the vice chair has rightly called his supreme dereliction of duty. So based on what we've already seen, I shudder to think what else Mr. Meadows is trying to hide. What we already know, and what is already clear, is that there was an attempted coup that day, aided and abetted from the top down. You know, if you look at world history, the first attempt at a coup doesn't always prevail, but the next time it often does. If we don't get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th, if we don't prevent it from ever happening again, the next time America may not be so lucky. And just let me remind my colleagues of one thing here. This Capitol was attacked. The people who work here were directly threatened. People died. 140 police officers were injured. It took over 3 hours for the people around Donald Trump to get him to respond. Over 3 hours. Let that sink in. Think of all that happened because of his silence. Think of what could have been prevented had he intervened earlier. I mean, I have a tough time trying to figure out what kind of rotten person would stand by while this carnage was happening before his very eyes, while he was watching it on TV. It's sick. But here we are today, and I appreciate the committee's work and determination to get to the truth. And speaking for myself, I will do whatever I think is appropriate and necessary to make sure that you get all the support that you need, because the American people are expecting us to get this right. I don't know if the ranking member has anything to say, but I'm happy to yield to him.